Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Welcome, Kentucky Mission. Yeah. It's so nice to have a full house like this. Like, that praise and worship was just amazing. Just hearing everybody come together. It was great. Let me pray. So, dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for getting Kentucky Mission here safely. Thank you for just allowing us to be a family, be a big family. Apart from this, all the other missions, Lord, just thank you for letting us have that and seeing you for who you are, Lord. And thank you for your words, your truth. Just be with me this morning. Allow me to speak the things that you need me to say, Lord. I know I have what I want planned, but it's what you want me to say, Lord. And just continue to bless us throughout this play practice, Lord, throughout all the residents. Just let them glorify you today. In your name I pray, amen. Speaking of play practice, for all you watching online, we have our Easter play coming up on April 12th at 6 p.m. right here at the Crossville Mission. We also have a little reception afterwards, so you are welcome to come, and we will glorify the Lord. Well, the residents will in their play. Yes, Miss Susan, it's a dual play, so it's Kentucky and Crossville Mission, one play together. All right, so I was watching House of David, right, and throughout watching that, I know the story of David, I know all this stuff, but Saul, I knew a lot about him, but I didn't know as much because I guess I just didn't dig deep enough into Saul, and I didn't have that connection, and probably because I didn't need that connection until now, of who he was, what he's went through, and the steps that he took after being anointed king. So we're going into 1 Samuel. And we're going to start in chapter 8. But to start, just as a header, Saul was 30 when he became king, and he reigned for 42 years. So that's just, it's a reflection on my life because, no, I'm not a king, I'm not a princess or anything like that, not even close. But I was in my 30s, when I started to try to get my life together, when God gave me a new heart, right, and put my focus on him. And the fact that Saul reigned for 42 years, it showed me in this that even after 42 years, you still have to be on guard. You still have to watch for the things that could tempt you, the people around you, stuff like that. So let's dig a little deeper in that. So 1 Samuel 8:19. But the people refused to listen to Samuel's warning. Even so, we still want a king, they said. We want to be like the nations around us. Our king will judge us and lead us into battle. So Samuel repeated to the Lord what the people had said, and the Lord replied, "Do as they say and give them a king." Then Samuel agreed and sent the people home. So they wanted a king so bad because everyone else had a king, and they wanted to be like the other people. They wanted to be like the other tribes. So the Lord was like, all right, if that's what you want, that's what you want. That's what I'm going to give you. Because the Lord is merciful. The Lord does love us. He does want to give us what we want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we need, right? So they begged for this king. Let's go to... So later on in chapter 9, a wealthy man named Kish... Hold on, let me get there. A wealthy, influential man named Kish from the tribe of Benjamin. He was the son of Abel, son of Zerah, and son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, of the tribe of Benjamin. His son Saul was the most handsome man in Israel, head and shoulders taller than anyone else in the land. So Kish's donkey strayed away, so he sent Saul and told him to take a servant to go find his donkey. Eventually, Saul was like, we got to go back. My dad's probably wondering where I am. And the servant had an idea to go see Samuel, right? So Saul's like, well, we don't have anything to offer him. We don't have anything to give to him. The servant said, I have one small piece of silver. We can give him that. And that's in chapter 9, verse 8. The servant said, I have one small silver piece. We can at least offer it to the man of God and see what happens. In those days, if people wanted a message from God, they would say, let's go and ask the seer. For prophets used to be called seers. So that's what they were calling Samuel. He was a prophet, the seer. So Saul agreed, so they went up there. Then 1 Samuel 9:15. Now the Lord had told Samuel the previous day, about this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him to be the leader of my people Israel. He will rescue them from the Philistine, for I have looked down on my people in mercy and have heard their cry. So the Lord's saying, to Samuel, this guy is going to come up. He's going to be the one that you're going to anoint king because I have mercy on my people. I hear them telling me they want a king. So let's do it. Let's give them a king. When Samuel saw Saul, that's a hard one, the Lord said, that's the man I told you about. He will rule my people. Just then Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and asked, can you please tell me where the seer's house is? I am the seer, Samuel replied. Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat together, and in the morning I'll tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. And don't worry about those donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, for they have been found. And I am here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of all Israel's hope. Saul replied, but I am only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel, and my family is the least important of all the families of the tribe. What are you talking like this to me? Why are you talking like this to me? So Saul saw himself as nothing, basically nothing. I'm a small person. I'm from a small tribe in Benjamin. My family's the least important of all families. Why are you saying these big things to me? Like, that doesn't make sense. Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them. I didn't realize how much this chapter rhymed. It's funny. Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them at the head of the table, honoring them above the 30 special guests. Samuel then introduced the cook to bring Saul the finest cut of meat, the piece that had been set aside for the guests of honor. So the cook brought in the meat and placed it before Saul. Go ahead and eat it, Samuel said. I was saving it for you even before I invited these others. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they came down from the place of worship and returned to town, Samuel took Saul up to the roof of the house and prepared a bed for him there. At daybreak the next morning, Samuel called to Saul, get up. It's time you were on your way. So Saul got ready, and he and Samuel left the house together. When they reached the edge of town, Samuel told Saul to send his servant on ahead. After the servant was gone, Samuel said, stay here, for I have received a special message for you from God. So Samuel's about to tell Saul that he is going to be anointed as king. And then Samuel anoints him as king. So he took the flask of olive oil, poured it over Saul's head, kissed Saul, and said, I am doing this because the Lord has appointed you to be the ruler over Israel, his special possession. When you leave me today, you will see 2 men beside Rachel's tomb and Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. They will tell you that the donkeys have been found, and your father has stopped worrying about them and is now worried about you. He is asking, have you seen my son? Okay, so I wanted to go down to chapter 10, verse 9, right? So Samuel's signs are fulfilled. Everything that he said is coming to fruition as planned. So as Saul As Saul turned and started to lead, God gave him a new heart, and all Samuel's signs were fulfilled that day. When Saul and his servant arrived at Gibeah, they saw a group of prophets coming toward them. Then the Spirit of God came powerfully upon Saul, and he too began to prophesy. When those who knew Saul heard about it, they exclaimed, "What, is even Saul a prophet? How did the son of Kish become a prophet?" So what I found important in that is so he's anointed as king. As soon as he does that, God is giving him a new heart. And what does that mean? That means he's given him new desires, new perspectives, new way of seeing. So he's changed him to have his focus on the Lord, changed him to have, be positive, to be kind, to have all the characteristics of the Lord, because that is what having a new heart would be. That is what happens to us when we come to find the Lord, right? God gave me a new heart by showing me the things that were right and wrong. He has changed my perspective on a lot of things. Sometimes what's limiting us are wrong mindsets, holding on to unforgiveness, relieving the hurts and traumas from the past. We have regrets and guilt from mistakes we have beating ourselves up. So those are things that you have to push away from. You have to remember, if you still have these things inside of you, if you still think lowly of yourself, if you still think that you can't forgive somebody, or that, you're overcome by anxiety or depression or anything like that, you can have a new heart, but your perspective is not going to change. So you have to keep your mindset on the fact that if God gave me a new heart, then all that thing is not there anymore, right? I am no longer depressed. I no longer have anxiety. I no longer have an addiction to drugs. I no longer crave them or have that temptation for them, right? Because God has put that new heart in me. Sorry, let's see where I wanted to go next. Okay. 1 Samuel 10:18. Well, let's just do 17. Later, Samuel was called all the people of Israel to meet before the Lord of Mizpah. And he said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, has declared. I brought you from Egypt and rescued you from the Egyptians and from all of the nations that were oppressing you." Wait, where was I? "But though I have rescued you from your misery and distress, I have rejected your God today and have said, 'No, we want a king instead.' Now therefore present yourselves before the Lord by tribes and clans." So Samuel is reminding them, the Lord has pulled you away from Israel, right? They have pulled you away from that, or Egypt. So Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel before the Lord, and the tribe of Benjamin was chosen by lot. Then he brought each family of the tribe of Benjamin before the Lord, and the family of the Matrites was chosen. And finally Saul, son of Kish, was chosen from among them, but when they looked for him, he had disappeared. So they asked the Lord, "Where is he?" And the Lord replied, "He is hiding among the baggage." So they found him and brought him out, and he stood head and shoulders above anyone else. Then Samuel said to all the people, "This is the man the Lord has chosen as your king. No one in all Israel is like him." And all the people shouted, "Long live the king." So Saul is hiding. He's, I guess, nervous, anxious, I don't know, fearful for sure, that he is now the king of his tribe. But because they wanted it, that's what they get. Then Samuel told the people what the rights and duties of a king were. He wrote them down on a scroll and placed it before the Lord. Then Samuel sent the people home again. When Saul returned to his home in Gibeah, a group of men whose hearts God had touched went with him. But there were some scoundrels who complained, "How can this man save us?" And they scorned him and refused to bring him gifts, but Saul ignored them. What was I going to say? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I was going next. All right, so throughout all this, so Saul is king. He's doing good. He's looking to the Lord. So 1 Samuel 11:13. But Saul replied, "No one will be executed today, for the Lord has rescued Israel." So Samuel's proclaiming that the Lord has rescued Israel. He's giving the Lord glory. He is showing that the Lord did this, right? And he continues to do that and continues to do that through the battles until one day, 1 Samuel 14. Let's see. Okay, so one day Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come on, let's go over to where the Philistines have their outposts." But Jonathan did not tell his father what he was doing. That's Saul's son is Jonathan. Meanwhile, Saul and his 600 men were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah around the pomegranate tree at Migron. One day I'm going to ask Jesus, like, how do you say these names? Because I struggle with that. Among Saul's men was Ahijah, the priest, who was wearing the ephod, the priestly vest. Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother, Ahitub. Okay, we're gonna get past this. Whatever. No one realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp. To reach the Philistine outpost, Jonathan had to go between two rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Senna. The cliff on the north was in the front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Geba. "Let's go across to the outposts of those pagans," Jonathan said to his armor bearer. "Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. He can win a battle, whether he has many warriors or only a few." Again, even Jonathan, although he is going against what his father, the king, has been saying, he's giving, saying that the Lord can help us no matter what. "Do what you think is best," the armor bearer replied. "I am with you completely, whatever you decide." "All right then," Jonathan told him, "we will cross over and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Stay where you are, or we'll kill you,' then we will stop and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up and fight,' then we will go up. That will be the Lord's sign that he will help us defeat them." When the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, "Look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Then the men of the outposts shouted to Jonathan, "Come on up here, and we'll teach you a lesson." "Come on, climb right behind me," Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "for the Lord will help us defeat them." So they climbed up using both hands and feet, and the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all, and their bodies were scattered over half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camp and in the field, including even the outposts and raiding parties. And just then, an earthquake struck, and everyone was terrified. Saul's lookout in Gibeah and Benjamin saw a strange sight. The vast army Philistines began to melt away in every direction. "Call the roll and find out who's missing," Saul ordered. And when they checked, they found that Jonathan and his armor bearer were gone. Then Saul shouted to Ahijah, "Bring the ephod over here," for at that time Ahijah was wearing the ephod in front of the Israelites. But while Saul was talking to the priest, the confusion in the Philistine camp grew louder and louder. So Saul said to the priest, "Never mind, let's get going." Then Saul and all his men rushed out to the battle and found the Philistines killing each other. There was terrible confusion everywhere. He hadn't been directed at this point by the Lord to go and do this. He's taking it on his own terms now to go and do this. So the Lord, where was I? Likewise, the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim joined the chase when they saw the Philistines running away. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle continued to rage even beyond Bethaven. Now the men of Israel were pressed to exhaustion that day because Saul had placed them under an oath, saying, let a curse fall on anyone who eats before evening, before I have full revenge on my enemy. So he's telling them not to eat all this stuff, and I'm running out of time, so I need to hurry up here. But anyway, so Saul's starting to eventually do things that the Lord has not told him to do. He has not given him direction on it. And as you can see, things are looking a little rocky, a little shaky, and things are not going the way that they should, although the Lord is still saving them, right? So if we go to 1 Samuel 15:10, then the Lord said to Samuel, I am sorry that I ever made Saul king, for he has not been loyal to me and has refused to obey my commands. Samuel was so deeply moved when he heard this that he cried out to the Lord all night. Early the next morning, Samuel went to find Saul. Someone told him, Saul went to the town of Carmel and set up a monument to himself. Then he went out to Gilgal. When Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. May the Lord bless you, he said. I have carried out the Lord's command. So he's not even seeing that he is disobedient to God. He's saying, I did this. I set out and I obeyed the Lord and I did what he told me to do. So then Saul tells him, then what is all the bleating of sheep and goats and the lowing of the cattle I hear Samuel demanding? So he told him to kill everything. Kill all things. All sheep, all goats, all people, everything. Well, Saul did not do that. It's true that the army spared the best of the sheep, goats, and cattle, Saul admitted, but they are going to sacrifice them to the Lord your God. We have destroyed everything else. So at this point, he's putting the blame somewhere else too. He's saying, oh, it's true, the army spared them. They're the ones that did this. But we're going to sacrifice them. Don't worry. We're going to get rid of them. So he's starting to give in to people versus the Lord. He's starting to lower himself, cower down, and do what others are saying, man is saying, instead of listening to what the Lord is telling him to do. Then Samuel said to Saul, stop, listen to what the Lord told me last night. What did he tell you? Saul asked, and Samuel told him, although you may think little of yourself, and are you not the leader of the tribes of Israel? The Lord has anointed you king of Israel, and the Lord sent you on a mission and told you, go and completely destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, until they are all dead. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Why did you rush for the plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight? And Saul says, but I did obey the Lord. Saul insisted, I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, but I destroyed everyone else. So that one small thing. He's like, I brought the king back, but I destroyed everything else. I didn't see that any different in my eyes as me saying one point in time, oh, I stopped doing heroin, but, I got rid of the big thing. I might have held on to smoking crack, but I'm going to get rid of it one day. That when I'm reading that, that's what I pictured was myself doing that, because that's what I did. I was like, oh, heroin made me overdose. I'll get rid of that, but I'm still going to smoke crack. One of these days I won't do it. So I'm holding on to something that I was being told by the Lord to get rid of. I didn't see that any different in my eyes. So Saul pleads for forgiveness. He's told all these different things. He's very disobedient to the Lord, doing what others wanted him to do and not God. I wrote down, being proud that we are clean and sober, but not willing to let go of our anxiety, depression, and guilt and all that. So we have pride. Yes, we do. We're obeying God. We're getting clean, but we're still holding on to things. We're not surrendering everything to the Lord. Last thing I wanted to read. The lesson is that a new heart and filling of the Spirit are necessary but not sufficient conditions for a life that remains true to God. We also have to be very careful of the examples around us that we allow to influence our thinking and conduct. We need to pick our friends and role models carefully and be careful what we watch and what we think about. We also need to be aware that the temptations we encounter in a position of power and influence are much greater than ordinary temptations. Otherwise, even genuinely reborn and spirit-filled people like Saul or ourselves can be led down the wrong path. So, just as Saul, he was 30 when he became king, 42 years he reigned, and he still fell into, giving the people what they wanted, falling into temptation, allowing himself to have pride because he did all these things. So even after 42 years as king, this stuff still came back because he was still holding on to other things. My point towards all this is just because, I've been clean and sober for 3 years doesn't mean this stuff can still come back and creep into me if I allow it. That temptation, old people, old friends. I have to be on guard. I have to give God the glory for everything that I do. I have to see him as doing all this stuff. At some point, if I let pride creep in and think for 1 second that I did anything, that becomes my destruction. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can see yourselves in that and just recognize, don't think so highly of yourself just because you got 42 years under your belt. Later down the road, you still have to keep yourself with the Lord. You still have to recognize that these things can come in. So 8 months isn't always enough, right? If you're going to let that pride come back in. 3 years isn't always enough if you're going to let that pride or that, anxiety come back, that depression come back to you. If you're going to let all that back in, then it's going to get right back to where you began. So, well, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful play practice. Joe, can you pray us out?